anyway, in the background, we're going to create a Directus extension. What we're going to do is change one of the string display components to not just display the characters of the string, but instead to display an image that database column contains. So we're going to make a photo URL display component with TypeScript, of course. Use PMPM to make sure that if the internet was slow or down, that this would still finish. So fingers crossed here. Yeah, so we have at Curious a few custom interfaces. Particularly the most important one for us was an interface that turned the string field into a barcode. So in a lab, you can imagine we have a lot of barcodes on our samples, on our plates specifically, so we have a whole system set up for that. So now that it's installed, let's start a window for the live coding. Great, even opened to the right page. Okay, can everyone see in the back? Good? Awesome, thank you. So let's make a Curious photo URL display here. We're going to get a little bit of live coding help from Copilot here. Call that photo URL. Definitely cheating, but don't forget I work in an AI startup, so we're all in cahoots. Right now what I'm configuring is when you're in the Directus app, you can configure how you want to display a given database column. So you can say, I want this display component, not another one, so we need to give it an icon. So when we're just figuring out what we want to display, we're doing the right thing. This is a photo. Good enough. Okay. Let's switch over to the display. Okay, so what you see here, very vanilla defined component, view 3 file here, single file SFC, whatever that means. And what we're going to do is we're going to take, this would ordinarily just display a div with some line of text in it, right? So instead, we said we wanted to display the image. So who can guess what we're going to display instead of a div? Image, exactly. So we're going to display the image. So that would work, but it would be too easy. So let's figure out.
You need to add text.
Yeah. So that's what's tricky, right? So we have so the comment was we need alt text, and I totally agree. The trouble with this component is we can apply it to any column that has an image in it. So unless we have a photo description in the database table, so we won't have something to put here. But we'll put something anyway. Accessibility is important, so we will put display of a. Let's give it a prop actually. So let's call that alt text if we have it, for example. And then actually while we're doing that, let's call this src. So just like any other normal. Here we go, cheating again. So each time I do this rehearsal, it suggests something a little different, but this will work. So I don't really want the alt text to be the URL. So let's say if we have, if there's a prop for alt text, we'll use alt text, and if there isn't, we'll use image, as close as we can get. In this case, this will work. I want to do a little bit of validation, because who doesn't want to do validations when they're applying a random component to some unknown data source? So we're going to throw in a quick try catch. Who has a suggestion of a way to validate that our string is actually a URL?
Inside the prop validation.
So we don't have, so in Vue, I don't think we have a type for URL here. It's coming from the database specifically, right? The database knows it as a string, not as a URL. By the way, what we're using at Curious right now is Postgres. So I don't think there's a data type for a URL, but I could be wrong about that. what we're going to do instead, just for the interest of time, is we're going to do a quick try catch on a new URL constructor. So this will throw if the string does not parse out to a valid URL. And in all other cases, we're just going to, instead of value, we're just going to give null. Because it's not a URL, it should be a URL. But what can you do? That is life. So let's throw in the alt text here as well, just to make sure that we're not losing that. That'll work, presumably. Okay, doesn't need. So another neat thing here about how Directus is compromised. So it will. I mean, this might just be view, right? And we have prop for string. We didn't specify that there could be another prop. So I'm just going to cheat here. It's going to be image. Excuse me. Okay, cool. Good enough for now. Great. Okay. So we have here another TypeScript error because we have potential null situation, right? So this is an easy one. I want a view beginner to answer. What do we do here to validate that SRC is not null? VIF. Woo! Yeah. Coming from 5 or 6 years of React, this was a huge revelation for me. All right, and that's on. Okay. The URL is not assignable to type string. Correct. Okay, so
You need to do asterisk.
so I could do asterisk. I just needed what I practiced was doing href. But there's a lot of ways to get here. They're all good ways. This will work, I think. So, all right. So we've got that going. Great. So I'm going to. So I saved the file. I'm going to switch back to my other window here, where this is now saved in my temp directory. So switching back here, you can still see, great. Let's copy that file from the temp directory. Oh, sorry, skipped a step, of course. What I forgot to do was to build the file. So how do you add a extension, a brand new extension to your Directus app? So you need to build it, right? And then when you build the file, it's just going to be run build in this case, it's going to generate a single, it should generate, because I'm in the right folder. There we go, caching. Okay, it's going to generate a single with Vite or Vite? I always forget. Vite, thank you. There's some disagreement. We're going to build a single file, an index.js file, and then we'll just copy that right into our Docker compose volume. So, okay, now we got that part done. And here, no, there we go, okay. We're going to copy from the dist folder that index.js file, and we're going to copy it into, right, the example project I made for tonight was a little Raffle app, not to compete, but I really wanted to make one. And I'm going to cd into that app. That's where we are now in this VS Code. Just to show you the file structure, this is the file structure we've got going on right now. So as you can see here, we've got an extensions folder, and into that extensions folder I copied our index.js file that we made tonight. I have a backup one just in case I have a typo somewhere. That one also has its index.js file. And another module that I really want to show off, so as I explained earlier, you have the ability to really plug into almost any section of Directus. So one of the things that we did at Curious is we built our own custom module, and here I have a custom module that's an open source custom module that lets us generate types on top of the open API schema that Directus gives us. without any configuration, straight off of the Postgres introspection. So we'll see that as well. I just need to Docker compose up. Okay. And I've started this before. I've fed it some data before the presentation as well. So that's why we're going to see it here. And you can see it's connected locally to Directus. It was bound to happen. Okay, so that's... Okay, let me show you. Great, so skipped ahead a second. So I took the liberty of... okay, 1 second. So in Directus you can configure your data model for which component you want a given column to use. So here we get that display. So of course it's not called custom anymore. It's called photo URL 2. And we'll use it to display that row in the table. So auto-saved. We're going to go to the content page, and here you can see all the avatar images that we had from the Meetup attendees here tonight. And yeah, so that's that part of live coding. The other neat thing is, like I said earlier, you can plug into just about anything. So I also this afternoon wrote like a quick the second layout called Carousel, which is going to let us browse through a different way. So why is this so important? When we were getting started at Curious, we needed to have full flexibility here for what we were going to display. We didn't really know what we were going to have to build at the end. We didn't. So having the flexibility to use different layouts for different tables or different database entities was really important. The code for that, if that's interesting, is here. So again, really straightforward. Here I'm just trying to show off the other ways of connecting to data within the actual admin app. So we have here just a pretty straightforward template with div section, image, and some controls. Personally, I like using the component API, but I actually started with options API at the beginning when I was getting started. I don't really know why I'm doing component API now, but I happen to like it. So anyway, one of the other things that you get out of the box is a client, a pre-generated client. So all of your components have access to use items. So instead of writing API routes, even though you have GraphQL, again, out of the box via that introspection, you also have the Directus extension SDK, which is giving us really easy use items. You give it some collection name, in this case it's participants, and you're able to do all your search on which fields you want, if you just want photo URL, if you want photo URL, full name, and something else, and filters, which is nice too. So here, rather than worrying about async, we're just giving it a simple query object. This is similar to what you would see in something like Mongo. And yeah, so that's pretty much it on that side. And the last thing.
You build it, or it came with the Directus?
So the question was, did I build this or did this come with Directus? So this particular, what we're seeing on the screen now, I built this afternoon, but it comes with a few layouts. So it comes with a map layout, a table layout, card layout. In this case, I wanted a carousel, so I was like, all right, let's try building a carousel. So yeah, and lastly, so it showed, I didn't show the community component. So this is a custom module that came out, someone else made it. It was, who made this one? Maltejor. So great component, just takes the open API schema and turns it into TypeScript types, or in this, and you can see here you've got gift recipient. So one thing that's really special about Directus versus something like ToolJet or Retool is they give you really strong support for relational data. So it's based on top of Postgres, but You can see here if we go to the GIFs layout, for example, like the Mama Nougat I've got here, we can choose a different display here. So for example, ordinarily you'd see like a picker here, but instead we can show like a carousel in this part of the app, which for internal apps, especially when you have a smaller team, can come really in handy, being able to display data the way you want. So again, that's relational. It's going off to another table and saying, okay, let's use the display component for that table and show me what you've got. And Python types, same story, or just Open API can generate a client as well. And that's just about it. And show the Raffler app. So the other way you can use this, a lot of companies actually use this just as a headless CMS. They don't use the admin app just because the GraphQL API is so easy to work with, kind of like a PostGraph file kind of situation. So this is an example of a way to use it. So this is the one that's running on the render platforms. It has a slightly different set of data. But behind the scenes, this is using the same Directus extension that I showed you. No, it's using the Directus JavaScript SDK to provide the data for this app. And then here, you can have this is a open source. Isn't there React here? No? This is a little preview to what we'll have after the next break. I think there's an actual raffle. This one is just with silly snacks. So we got the image. I'd be happy to, everyone's in here, just about everybody's in here, so I'm happy to throw in some more whatever licenses you have, and we'll go for it. And the code for that is also pretty straightforward. So I threw that into the front end. This is just a normal Vue 3 app where I copied this is the component from a different person. I didn't write this, but it is open source. And in the front end, we have the Raffle view. What I'm showing here is the use of the Directus SDK and the types specifically. So what's really neat here is we're importing the Directus API client, which again is basically no code. Just about. That's it. Instead of Axios, instead of Fetch, instead of whatever. Behind the scenes, it's Axios, but we can forget about that for now. It's doing auth, it's handling permissions, it's handling types here that came from that extension I showed you previously. I just copy pasted that file in here. And we are getting out of it. Here you have the types. Put together some reactive state. With all of our types, so that when we need to pick a winner, right, we have a pretty good idea of what we're dealing with. And here it's filtering just on the GIFs that we have assigned to a particular meetup, and we're only getting the fields we need. This is based on the GraphQL I mentioned earlier, where we're just pulling the specific data we need out. Watch, of course, if the meetup changed, and displaying the photo, that's about it. And then we have the Raffle component that we were using previously. So that's that with the live code. Questions about the live coding before I move back to okay. And that's about it. So again, just I'll make this big. So again, that's my talk on Directus and how it can help startups revolutionize their data management. Again, my name is Michael Salaveri. This is my GitHub. Give me a follow there. And Curious is hiring a senior data scientist, and I'm just going to put it out there. I know a lot of really promising junior developers who just graduated a boot camp from a nonprofit called Appleseeds, and they have a whole very diverse and talented group of boot campers similar to myself who I think have a lot to give. So if you know anybody who's hiring juniors or you want to get in touch with some promising people, let me know. That's it. Thank you. שאלות?
באנגלית או בעברית?
בעברית זה גם בסדר. מה שנוח לך, כאילו זה באמת לא בעיה בשביל זה.
זה מעניין, אני לא בטוח הבנתי מה הספרייה הזאת מנסה לעשות ברקטוס. נראה שהיא מנסה לעשות אולי יותר מדי דברים, אני לא בטוח, כן? וגם, אני לא יודע אם זה טוב שהיא מסתירה ממך את האימפלמנטיישן, כמו מה שהראית שהיא כאילו עושה בשבילך הרבה דברים, בצורה opinionated, וכאילו אני לא יודע, זה בסוף double edge sword, זה מה שאני בא להגיד, שזה כאילו יכול לבוא לרעה, זה כאילו POC מאוד מהיר, אבל אולי בהמשך פיתוח זה קצת יכול להועיל. אני לא יודע, מה אתה חושב על זה?
כן, אז ה-comment, פחות או יותר question, כאילו, היה האם זה יותר מדי מאחורי הקהלים ויותר מדי magic, וכאילו, אם זה לא מפריע לנו באמצע הפיתוח אחרי שנה, משהו כזה. דווקא היינו בזה איזשהו שנה, התקרנו בבעיות של implementation של, למשל, ה-alter table של SQLite התחלנו עם SQLite, זה לא היה. שדווקא חשבתי שכן, אז התקרנו בבעיות במעבר בין ה-SQLite ל-Postgres, באמת לתמוך בזה. אני מתייחס על זה, כמו שאמרת, זה אחלה דרך להגיע לתוצאה ראשונית, לראות את הדאטה, לא חייב להשתמש ב-admin app, כאילו, זה משהו שלא כל כך מפריע לחיבורים אחרים. דווקא היום, לכל מיני סיבות, יש לנו גם חיבורים לפוסטגרס שלנו ישירה, כאילו, לא מול הדירקטוס, וזה מאוד משרת לנו, כאילו, ופיתוח המשך הוא לא כל כך על גבי הדירקטוס דווקא, וזה נכון, כאילו, זה כלי שמאוד נכון להשתמש בהתחלה בשביל סטארט-אפ, במיוחד אם יש לך שליטה על הטבלות, כאילו, אם הטבלות נוח
להציג את המידע.
בדיוק, נוח להציג המידע, ואין יותר מדי חיבורים, זה יכול לעבוד. כן.
תודה.
יש לי עוד איזו שאלה, אבל תוך כדי זה בינתיים מאיה וגיא, אתם יכולים להדליק את זה השני. השאלה שלי היא קצת דומה לשאלה שלך. אני חושב שהצגת, לא בדמו, במה שאתה עושה בדרוקס, הוא מאוד מאוד ספציפי, יוניקי, ורציתי לשאול אם אתה מכיר use cases, נגיד, לא יודע, אולי 1-2 לפחות שאתה יכול לתת לנו, של הנה X ישתמש בדירקטוס בשביל שיהיה לו יותר קל לעשות Y. כאילו, אם יצא לך להכיר דוגמאות אחרות, אולי כלליות יותר, כי אני יכול לדמיין מה אני הייתי עושה עם זה, אבל לא יודע עד כמה זה יוניק.
כן, אז פחות או יותר השאלה האם חברות אחרות משתמשים דירקטוס, ואם כן, מה ה-use case שלהם ואיך זה נוח להם. אז הרבה חברות משתמשים בדירקטוס כ-CMS קלאסי, כאילו, לבלוגים, דברים יותר פשוטים, במיוחד אם יש איזה צוות קונטנט שלא רוצים להתייחס לאיזה מרקדאון או לא יודע מה. יש חברות גדולות שמשתמשים בזה, למשל BMW או עוד חברות כאילו. כן, וגם יש, אני לא סגור בדיוק איזה חברה, אבל יש באתר של הדירקטוס, הם אומרים כאילו זה scalability, כאילו זה יכול לעשות scale עם הרבה horizontal scale מול אותו database, כאילו, מיליוני אנשים בו זמני, כאילו.
כאילו עם החלופה שלי, אני סתם מנסה לדמיין, אני מניח שחלק מהחבר'ה מתחברים, אם עכשיו אני רוצה להרים custom blog, סבבה, אבל לא משהו שהוא סטנדרטי, כי סטנדרטי, סופר סטנדרטי, הייתי הולך לאיזה וורדפרס, plug and play, לא נוגע בקוד, מזין את הפוסט שלי, עושה publish, whatever. משתמש בבק אופיס ומשתמש גם בקליינט שלי בעצם, בקליינט טמפלייט. אם עכשיו יש לי משהו יוניקי בתוך הבלוג שלי, והפוסטים שלי הם, לא יודע, תלת מימדים, whatever, אז אני יכול לקחת משהו שהוא כמו דירקטוס בעצם, ולעשות לזה קסטומיזציה גם לבק אופיס, תוך כדי האדיטינג שאני יוצר את הפוסט שלי, וגם לקליינט שלו שמוצג, נכון? זה אחד מהכיוונים מן הסתם לעבוד.
כן, זה בדיוק. אז אפשר להשתמש בזה למיליון דברים, כאילו, וזה לא נכון לכל מקרה, אבל לנו להתחלה היה נכון בעיניי ומשרת לנו.
גם לעכשיו, אם אתם משתמשים
כן,
בזה.
לא, עדיין משתמשים בזה.
אז כאילו, זה לא POC אצלך, זה ממש, זה הפרודקט.
זה קרה אחרי שנה, פרודקט, צוות שלם של ביולוגים, PhDs, אבל לא צריך PhD בדבר הזה כדי להשתמש בו. משתמשים בו כל יום, כאילו זה משרת לנו 24/7, זה יותר יציב מאשר את האינטרנט של המשרד שלנו, אז זה כבר לא 9 nines of reliability, but good enough. So yeah, that's Directus, that's me.
שאלות?
שאלות, עוד שאלות.
אתם מתכוונים אולי להוציא את זה אחר כך למוצר חיצוני?
זו שאלה אם רוצים להוציא את זה למוצר חיצוני מתישהו. אז אצלנו אנחנו מוכרים יותר הדוחות, כאילו, reports.
כן, אני יודע שזה לא הביזנס של QS.
כן, אז פשוט לא.
או אתה אולי להוציא את זה כאופן סורס? לא.
אז Directus הוא כבר אופן סורס, אבל זה דווקא נקודה מעניינת, כאילו, היום זה פרויקט אופן סורס, שמאחריו יש סטארט-אפ. והסטארט-אפ דווקא לאחרונה בחר להוסיף איזה BSL license, Business Source license, כמו מונגו. אז זה כבר לא חינם לחברות ענקיות, אבל זה עדיין אופן סורס לחלוטין.
שזה דבר שמונע בדרך כלל מאנשים להסתכל על.
כן, אבל כשהתחלנו איתו, זה היה גרסת 9, זה עדיין על ה-MIT license, זה בסדר גמור, גם עכשיו זה רק אם יש לך את ה-finance, אז כאילו להשתמש בו כמו שצריך, ולתמוך בו. עוד שאלה? זהו?